Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we are just a bunch of bros drinking beer and talking movies. This is episode 187, and I am your host, the mayor, Jeff Hornacek. We thank you guys for joining us for the movie discussion tonight. Before we dive in, let's go around and meet the fellow bros with me. First, we go to the American hero, Nate Thurmond. Nate, is it too dangerous to grill with your shirt off, or is the risk reward just too great to ignore?
Just like in golf, I say look good, play good. So, look good, grill good. So you gotta take a few battle scars if you want to step up your grill game. So I say shirt off.
I think chicks love, like, if you're like, yeah, you got a bunch of scars on your chest. Like, oh, what's that from? Like a knife fight? Or like, were you an army veteran? You're like, actually, I was grilling some fucking cheddar brats and they started squirting at me. And this
you'd be like, right here. That hot lava cheese squirted on my chest.
I thought you were going to be like, well, my father was a drinker.
My father was a bit of a drinker.
Want to know how I got these scars?
I was combining Austin Powers with The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
That voice is our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli. Now, Ronnie, we started an Instagram account for the pod this week, and you have been very specific, giving us all guidelines. The main one that I had an issue with was you said that we cannot post naked pictures of ourselves on there. So I think I speak for all the bros when I say, what's your deal?
No, I said we can, we shouldn't if we want actual followers. Sorry, there's nothing actually stopping us from doing it. But I just advise if we want, our fans to come and enjoy our Instagram. I don't know, man.
Would Instagram flag it for being too hot?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be like, hey, let the other users have some attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not a monopoly, Jeff.
Yeah, on getting chicks wet and dudes.
Also, the issue would be getting Geiger in one photo.
He's so massive. Yeah,
it just couldn't happen.
We would need like the MetLife blimp to get like an overhead shot of him.
Yeah.
And even then. All right, well, here on the Bro 4 Squad podcast, we start every episode off with the most important thing in any bro's life, and that is Chess Day. And as you are listening to this, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series has just concluded on Disney+. Its 6-episode run ended this Wednesday. I believe this should drop on Friday. And we did this also for Book of Boba Fett as well. Some of the Star Wars series, I guess just for Mandalorian, but we've dropped weekly reviews. But with Obi-Wan Kenobi, again, the same as we did for Boba Fett, we wanted to do sort of a recap or a reaction after the show aired, after we got the full picture, and give our thoughts on it. So if you have not seen the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and you don't want it spoiled for you, I would say skip ahead to like the halfway point of this episode. So maybe like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Because we are going to spoil the series for you. If you have seen it, perfect. This is where you want to be. We will be reviewing or reacting to this using the 4 Bro 4 Squad TV criteria, which is the acting, the story. Normally we do favorite scene, so we're going to do scene, episode, or I guess just moment from the whole show. And then the last part is typically theories and questions, but since we're not guessing what's going to happen week to week, I think that would be good to just do impact or anything you want to talk about that just did not fit in the other parts of the review. So, again, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, if you don't want it spoiled for you, skip ahead now. We begin with the acting and the cast. And, Ronnie, we'll start with you. I think this project has been rumored for I feel like the better part of a decade, even before Disney Plus was a thing.
You could argue the internet was pushing this rumor long before it was serious.
And, obviously, the prequels, especially with Hayden Christensen, the fan reaction was pretty rough, and I think people were nervous that he or Ewan McGregor might not want to come back. Once they announced they were in, that made this thing obviously a reality. How did you feel about the performances in this? We had obviously them, but some newcomers actually had a lot of the weight to carry here, both with Leia's character and Reva.
Yeah, I think the overall acting was pretty on par for Star Wars. And that's, I think it's easy to go back and we talk about the prequels or the originals even in the sequel trilogy. There's always been moments in Star Wars where the acting is just really not great. And sometimes you can say, well, it's really the writing. Hey, George Lucas didn't know how to write a script. That makes even Oscar-worthy actors look, not their best. But I thought this one in general was decent acting. I will say, obviously, Ewan McGregor always going to do what he does. I think he was easily the star of the show outside of, okay, the show's about him. He took the role seriously. You never know what you're going to get. Are we getting an actor who's coming in 20 years later to a role saying, whatever, here's a paycheck? Or are they going to take it seriously?
Yeah.
I think Riva, like you said, this is where the discussion really breaks down. She probably had the second biggest role on the show. Her name is Moses Ingram?
Moses Ingram, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Leia had the biggest role in the plot, but she definitely had the second most screen time.
Yeah.
Maybe even the most if you actually broke it down. It'd be close.
And I'll say this: there's obviously been a lot of internet hate towards her, and sadly, this happens for Star Wars is the worst franchise fandom, right? Like the Star Wars' biggest fans' enemy is Star Wars fans, and. Was she good? I don't think so. I personally do not think she was able to carry such a large role, carry that burden of essentially the lead evil person outside of Vader. Like Vader was, to Palpatine, right? Like technically he's not the biggest, baddest guy, but he was the focus point. That's what Riva was in this show. Mm-hmm. Like while Vader is the focus of the bad guy, but she's the one carrying the weight. And I just don't think she was able to do what she needed to do. Now, does it have anything to do with how the internet's treated her? Absolutely not. There's been plenty of times we've seen bad acting by other people that don't get the level of hate that she's gotten.
For sure.
This is not a personal attack on her or anything of that nature. I just don't think she was the strongest choice. And the little girl that played Leia, I'm not going to criticize a little kid actor. I think personally she grew into her role. It's so hard. We don't need a Jake Lloyd situation. I don't think she was a fantastic kid actor, but I think she did her job well. She was very endearing and had a little bit of attitude that we get from Leia in A New Hope. So again, you can't take that away from them. So there was other characters that I'll let you guys get into, but overall for me, the acting was very just Star Wars. Some good, some bad, some just kind of cringy.
It's weird that this Star Wars doesn't produce great performances consistently, for whatever reason.
It's kind of
Nate, what do you think?
Well, the one note I will start on, Vivian Lyra Blair, who played Leia's character. My first bullet point is fantastic.
I love her. I don't know.
to Cycly's counterpoint, saying I will not say she was fantastic.
I think Banner was with me. Okay.
Oh, probably, yeah. But. And I know, it's easy for a lot of people to criticize child actors, but I think she did a good job of being zealous and confident, but then still having that naiveness or naivety to her role as well. And maybe it came off as a little childish. I mean, but yeah, she's 10 years old, so it's going to come off that way. And I'll just say credit to her because I really felt that she was in that role. You got a lot of Leia. You got a lot of older Leia kind of flashbacks because you kind of saw what she was going to build into. But then even in the last pretty much the last scene of the series, Kenobi is talking to her and comparing to her father and to her mother. I thought that was great because I think they did a good job of bringing that through in her role and showing that. But yeah, it was just she really brought that unadulterated confidence. I don't know. I'm just a kid. I'm going to do what I think is right. And kind of especially it kind of shone through whenever her and Kenobi were traveling by themselves and trying to stay undercover. She was like, no, let's just do this. And that's exactly what a kid would do. And I thought she played it off well.
Even I think it was episode 1, but the scene where she puts her cousin in an absolute body bag at that dinner, just roast the shit out of him. I was like, this is, and I get what Cycly's saying where it's she develops into Princess Leia, but she doesn't have to be so over the top and charismatic as a 10-year-old. It's I get it. It's Princess Leia. You don't have to no, but she does Leia-isms all the time.
They may have laid it on a little thick with the parallelisms from older Leia.
Yeah. Cycly, and I guess I want to get both your guys' thoughts on this, but mainly Cycly because he wasn't as enthused with her performance. Did you have trouble buying her relationship with Kenobi throughout the series?
A little bit. I don't think it was necessarily that so much. I mean, I think it was just that I've come to, when we see good kid act, like to me, like when like we can talk about like the first season of Stranger Things or other things, like when you see good kid actors, you're like, oh my gosh, like that's insane that they got a little kid to do that. I mean, I can even say Harry Potter, the first couple movies, like those kids, like weren't fantastic. That's what I would put her on par with. Again, wouldn't say she was just terrible, but I just think I just felt like she was really like going under the direction of what she was being told to do, right? Like I wasn't caught in her story, I wasn't taken aback by her performance by any means, and the whole thing to me felt a little forced. I'll say with her relationship with Kenobi, and I mean again, I think at the end of the day that it was the story that carried it, but that's what I'll say about that performance.
Anyone else, Nate? Good or bad?
Well, we'll get into a little bit more what I was going to elaborate on with like her and Kenobi. But yeah, I pretty much echo what Cycly was saying on Moses Ingram's character. I think it was just a tough cross to bear.
Yes.
Coming into Star Wars with such a huge pivotal role in this series and such a series that was like so long awaited. So there was a lot of pressure on this. And so, yeah, it just didn't come off exactly right. And then the last thing I will say, this was a nice kind of refreshing, almost cameo that popped in. Kamal Nanjiani as Raja, I think he played in there. And my thoughts on this is he was the comedic relief. He was kind of, and I might rub some people the wrong way here, but he was what Jar Jar was trying to be, but he was successful.
Direct comparison to Jar Jar.
Interesting. Yeah, this is interesting because I think we all have very different takes. I hated Kumail Nanjiani's character.
Really?
It really took me out of it. He's just in too much stuff now. Like,
he's also just the same guy.
I know, he's Kumail Nanjiani. Yeah. Although I did think the concept of him basically being like a fake Jedi who's using parlor tricks to fool people was funny.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say about Ewan McGregor, because we hardly talked about him, even though he's like the titular character. I thought he was incredible in this from the standpoint of, I'm sure he asked, like, all right, well, if I'm going to come back and do Kenobi after how much this was shit on before, like, is there a wrinkle to my character? Like, what's the difference? And I thought they did a really good job in 6 episodes of showing how, like, he is not the Jedi he used to be, at least in the beginning, and that's frustrating to him, but also he's like, I never thought I would have to use these abilities again because I just had resigned myself to the fact that my life is just going to end on this planet. And
he did a great job of playing the broken man.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And I think that progressed very well throughout the 6 episodes. Nate, did you have anybody else you want to talk about?
No, that was about it. We basically touched on everyone I was going to talk about.
Can I give a shout out to Freck? Zach Braff making an appearance playing Freck.
Would not have known that was his voice.
Give me a Freck spin-off series.
Yeah.
Like, just him on that farm. Oh, just farming.
I like that a lot. I had no idea that was him, by the way.
I didn't either. And even when I went back and rewatched parts of the episode, it doesn't sound like him. Like he's doing.
No, he did a good job.
Yeah.
Want to give a quick shout out before we move on. Indira Varma, who played Tala in the series, I thought she gave an incredible performance. And I'm wondering, because this does take place, like, obviously before Rogue One, before the rebellion is fully formed. I wonder if she might show up in the Andor series. Would be cool.
I can see that. Yeah,
could be.
To show like how she sort of infiltrated the Empire.
Yeah, she would. Yeah, I mean, it sets up nicely for her to be like a puzzle piece to kind of play both sides again.
Mm-hmm. It was fun. All right, on to the story and the plot. So I have to say, this did not go at all where I thought it was going to. I thought it was genius to use Tatooine as bookends, really, to this series, as opposed to, I personally, maybe this is just my own assumption that was based on nothing, but I thought the majority of the show would take place on Tatooine, and it didn't, which I was happy with. The element of Lane being kidnapped was a huge surprise for me, and unfortunately it was spoiled by one of our friends 4 seconds after the show came out, but I thought that was a great plot device to get Obi-Wan involved. Now, having said that, maybe just because Joel Edgerton played him, I would have loved a little more of Owen and Luke in the show, but I understand that this isn't really their story, and obviously Luke's story takes place in the series. So the one last thing I want to say before I turn it over to you, Nate, I love the Inquisitors, and I was not that familiar with them from Rebels or the games, but I think it's a really interesting idea, like the power vacuum that existed after the Republic falls, and there's all these people basically sucking whoever's dick they had to get in favor with Vader and Palpatine, and they're like former Jedis willing to basically sell out. That to me was really cool, and I would actually love like a spin-off series of that at some point, like the Inquisitors duking out. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, that's a good point. Before I jump into my other bullet points I have here, yeah, that'd be cool. Like they're doing like Bad Batch now, so that'd be a cool secondary series if they spun something like that off. But I mean, through this series over the past couple of weeks, we've been texting off pod and talking about it. So we've kind of got a feeling of what each other is feeling on the whole series. But yeah, completely different direction, like we said from the beginning. Did not see like a whole Leia thread going on, which is great. And it also helps and like cements in some of the things that have been in the movies, like I mean, from the original New Hope, like her reaching out to Kenobi, "You're our only hope," and then her naming her son Ben later on. So,
yeah, I didn't even make that connection, but that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I think I sent something to you guys, you and Brian, Jeff and Banner, I think. But yeah, I saw the pup and I was like, how have I not put this together? Like they formed this relationship, Ben Kenobi, and now she later names Kylo Ren Ben. So, it's cool that they can go back now and like add more flavor and more development to these already well-established stories. So they're going in like sprinkling in like little time zones that we haven't ever really visited yet. So overall, like front to back, like great series. One of my favorite series that have come out on Disney Plus, Marvel, Star Wars, anything so far. I will say the one thing I did not like, and it happened a couple times, is Vader just leaving people alive. It did not make too much sense to me, and specifically when he leaves Reva alive. He knows she is a force-sensitive person, was a youngling. She has these powers. They're actively hunting down Jedis and trying to kill them who are on his side, and he just leaves it a chance, like, hey, I think you're going to die. And I think they were trying to play it off as like more of a power move. You mean nothing to me. I know you're not a threat. But still, even at that point, this ruthless, most powerful person in the whole universe just kind of leaves her there to chance, knowing that he knows, she knows he's Anakin and all these other things. It just doesn't make sense. I thought it maybe could pay off later if he was playing chess and we were all playing checkers and he was like, she's going to lead me to something.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in the last episode. Maybe there could be a saving grace in season 2, something happens, but the way her arc ended in season 1, I don't see that happening. So that really bugged me. And then the final big battle with him and Kenobi, him just like throwing these rocks, I'm going to leave in there. I'm like, you didn't see the body, which ultimately I know we all know he makes it out, duh. But that battle could have ended differently, I think, and it would have left a better taste in my mouth.
Vader and Reva reminds me of the line in Austin Powers when Dr. Evil like ties up Austin and then he's like, no, I'm just going to leave and assume it all goes according to plan. And Scott's like, I have a gun in my room. I'll go get it. We'll shoot him together. Scott, you just don't get it.
Yeah, 100%.
Think of this.
And yeah, just Reva's character in general, I know we talked about her in acting and casting that, but like in the story, like I could have seen it playing out much better. Like the resolution wasn't that satisfying. The resolution was basically just her coming to grips with things. It was like it didn't really benefit the entire plot or the entire story. It just kind of benefited herself, and maybe it'll play out later in season 2. I don't know, but like I just wanted more resolution there because her being a youngling and making it out. And I think I was texting off pod about this. This may be the only time we've seen in main Star Wars sagas that a youngling has made it out, and this is them down the line. So there was a lot to chew on there, and I wish it just would have come to a different end. It wasn't that satisfying.
Yeah, a lot of her character just.
Hold on, Jeff. I think you froze whenever you come back.
Yeah. At first I was like, is it me? And then I heard you're drinking. Oh, there we go. Wait.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. You can just start on your last comment.
Okay, I was saying some of Reva's character motivations didn't really make sense to me based on, or her character decisions didn't make sense to me based on what she said her motivations were.
Exactly.
Like, essentially, she claimed to have basically become an Inquisitor, a double agent, like just to get back at Vader. But I'm like, yeah, but you're doing like fucked up shit that the Sith actually do. So if you're gonna sit here and act like you're only in this to get revenge on the guy who killed all your friends, like how many fucking innocent people have you killed along the way? Like, it's not very altruistic of you. So somewhere you're lost. Cycly, what'd you think of the story plot?
Yeah, so I'll say I agree with the overall arc. Like, I'm glad. I remember my biggest fear walking into this was the potential of retconning, right? Like, and we can get into that in a little bit because there is some retconning, and some are more angry than others online. But
sorry, one thing I want to point out that I just realized is, has anything ever in history, or will it ever in history, has had more iterations of content that come before its original entries? Like, nothing has it come even close to Star Wars. So
I don't even think so. No, I agree. And now I was going to get into that a little bit about, like, while I hate retconning, I can respect some of it because it's a tough place to be. So first, the thing I was going to say is, like, this story, like you mentioned, it can't take place on Tatooine. If there's going to retcon other things, fine. But, like, the whole point of A New Hope is Vader had no idea that there was a presence of his son or Kenobi on Tatooine, because otherwise none of this makes sense. So I was very happy that they addressed that early on. The story is not going to be on Tatooine. So that was predictable.
And before Hayden Christensen was announced, a lot of people thought it would be Darth Maul returning to Tatooine, which I would have thought would have been cool. But then when you say we're getting Vader, I'm like, well, fuck yeah. I mean, that's cooler.
Yeah, I would have loved either. I mean, I would have loved a scene of Darth Maul too. But the overall plot of, like, the Leia being kidnapped and that makes sense to me. Again, like, we had to get something relatable here. Obviously, Kenobi's just doing his own thing. It's either him fighting with the locals on Tatooine or actually deciding to go do something, of importance. And it was cool to bring that back. And, like, once we knew that Hayden Christensen was on board, like, the Star Wars fan base, who, again, shit on him 20 years ago, now loves him. Maybe they'll do the same thing with the Riva. It just cracks me up how, like, the indecisive Star Wars fans are, and we are them. So what I will say about the overall plot, though, I think I am whelmed. Like, right? Like, I'm not underwhelmed, I'm not overwhelmed. I just there. And I think it's a combination of things. The story was quick paced, rightfully so. I would rather have this than 10 episodes. But the Riva story, going back to what Nate said, really ends with the whimper. I mean, it's just built up throughout the 6 episodes, and then it's just, oh, she survives getting stabbed in the lightsaber. Like, wait, Qui-Gon Jinn didn't survive the exact same stabbing, right? Like, same place, but she survives enough to not only that, but find a transport and get to Tatooine and get. Yeah. I got lost on that story.
But she was limping when she got there, okay?
That's true.
She couldn't keep up with Luke because she was limping, guys. Come on.
Yeah. I know what that's like. Just get the soccer spray out. Just spray a little on the ankle. It's fine.
Yeah, that works.
So that lost me. I get it can take away her acting. The character was made to be a focal point of this show.
Yeah.
Whether you liked her or not. And that's how it ends. It just kind of, to me, it was weird too that they had that scene be the climax after the fight scene with Obi-Wan and Vader. That was an interesting, you would think that would have been a bigger buildup.
The way it sets up and the way the episode points, it's pointing at this huge climax and, like, this huge revelation, and it just wasn't there. I understand what happened and what her realization of herself was, but it just wasn't that important.
No. That you could have done it. We could have had her die at the end of the 5th episode and just left that storyline alone. The Luke, I get it. They're bringing Luke into it, maybe, but, like, you could have just left that alone. I don't think we feel any different.
No, it's kind of throwaway.
Yeah, and Nate, you referenced the fight scene. Yeah.
Well, after the Vader Obi-Wan emotional stakes, then you get to Riva on Tatooine. And I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck about this compared to what I just saw.
No.
100%. I was literally out of it at that point. I was like, what? Like, how can you not climax with that fight? And the fight, I'll say, I'm sure we'll get into it in a little bit, but, like, we knew where it was going, right? We knew the result, but for the most part, there are some things I want to talk about the fight, but I do really appreciate that dramatic scene and the Vader getting cut on the top of the head, because we see
I
that.
wanted him to take off the mask. I really did.
Yeah, I did too.
One
But
of the coolest visuals
yeah,
I've seen.
But I like he probably can't.
yeah, and we'll get into that in the scene. But I do love that they reference the scars that we see in Revenge of the Sith. Or sorry, in Return of the Jedi on the top of his bald head.
Yeah.
Okay, so overall, I just felt like the story did what it was going to do, but I don't think it, did anything extra special or, knock us out of the park.
All right, so you've alluded to some of these things, but our favorite scene, episode, or moment from the series. Ronnie, why don't you go first?
It has to be for me the fight scene, like I was just talking about. And sorry for taking
final
low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainly because of that. It wasn't just the lightsaber scene. The score was fantastic. The choreography of the fight was amazing. Obviously, not as intensive on Mustafar with the lava and everything else going around them. So you could really focus in on the frustration and hatred that Vader has for Kenobi. And then obviously when Vader is just kind of struck down again. By the way, has he ever won? Like, he never wins a fight against Obi-Wan. He always thinks he's better than Obi-Wan, even when Obi-Wan is training him, and always still loses right at the end. That's got to be a gut punch.
I was convinced whenever he dug that pit and Obi-Wan was in there, we were going to get I have the higher ground.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I was waiting for it.
Oh, because they gave so many other references. They literally said the same lines at the beginning of the fight as they did in Revenge of the Sith, which I loved. I will do what I must, then you will die.
Vader's like the Falcons against the Patriots in that Super Bowl. He's just like choke artist, man.
And the thing is, when he finally arguably wins in A New Hope, Obi-Wan let him strike him down. So the guy goes a full ofer against his former Gap master. So there was one part, and Nate, you may have noticed this. It felt very Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix-esque, where when Obi-Wan is down in the pit and he's basically defeated, and he's flashing the visions of Leia and Luke, and it inspires him. It was very much like when Harry is possessed by Voldemort, and then he starts picturing his friends, and then that it shoots Voldemort out of there. I was like, oh, I don't think it was on purpose, but that's exactly what I thought of.
That's good. Scene. Yeah, it's a good call out. Good reference.
Yeah, so again, and the ending, it was the ending of the fight. Like, choreography, everything it was a lightsaber battle, but that conversation at the end, the half-broken mask, the defeated Padawan, again, who's just basing everything on rage, who just will not take his lessons from whether it's Obi-Wan or Palpatine. They both always tell him to control his emotions, and he just can't. And so I did love that, though. My one issue, and we know this was going to happen. Kenobi's before the fight, either he'll die or I'll die. This is it. It ends tonight. And then we get the whole all right, you're defeated. I'll see you later.
Bye.
And then walk away. What?
I actually, and I kind of, to defend the show here, this is some retconning, but I think it fixes what Obi-Wan said in A New Hope, and I love the line. So he says, well, then my friend really is dead.
Yeah.
And he walks off the planet. And then when he tells Luke...
he calls him Darth.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It fixes the from a certain point of view, which is one of the worst lines in the whole series that George Lucas wrote. But people have saved his ass since then. I think, in a sense, Obi-Wan feels like Vader killed Anakin. It's over. One of the person I thought I was coming here to fight is dead, and you're something totally different. And he's so heartbroken in that moment that he just has to get off planet. He's like, I can't even fucking look at you.
Yeah, see, that's where I struggled, though. That was Obi-Wan's I'm not going to make that mistake again, though. I get it for the story, because you can't have Vader defeated, but I think that's just that's the kind of the devil you live with when you create a series like this. There are going to be that kind of holdbacks.
It really is fucked up, because now that I think about it, the one time Obi-Wan actually fights Vader and Vader wins, Obi-Wan lets him win.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So Vader's God damn it.
Doesn't even count. Palpatine's nope, asterisk. No, sorry.
Oh, I did. No, but God damn it.
So that's again low hanging fruit. It's just always we knew it. That's what we wanted to see at the end of the day. We wanted
100%.
Kenobi, we wanted Vader. So I'll take it.
Yep.
Nate, how about you? Favorite scene, episode, moment?
Yeah, so this is another favorite scene up until a point, and that'll make sense here in a second. But whenever episode, well, I guess it was 5. Whenever Kenobi and all the other rebel people or Jedi sympathizers are trying to take off, and he walks in, plane taking off, and he really shows how badass of a motherfucker he is.
Mhm.
And for the most part, when you see Vader, he's fairly reserved, and like his fighting is usually pretty subtle. Like he'll choke people. He uses the Force subtly. But then when you get those really badass fight scenes like we had in the season finale, it's so awesome to see. And so this one, the episode before, he literally just pulls the plane out of the air, pulls it down, starts ripping the panels off the side, like you haven't
So
seen anyone
badass.
else ever do.
Yeah.
And then to culminate that, Riva fucks up and comes in at the wrong time. But the confidence he has in himself of being able to kick anybody's ass anytime, he starts taking her on with the double sword lightsaber with nothing. He doesn't even pull his out.
I know,
He's like,
which is
I'll
such a
just get it from
baller
you.
move.
It was
So disrespectful.
and like I know it's going to get overshadowed by the big fight in the finale, but this one, it just showed so much power in himself, and the way he just broke her lightsaber and said, "Fuck this, I don't care. I'm going to take yours. I'm going to kick your ass with your own lightsaber. I don't even need one at the beginning." Like it was just like next level, which is kind of hard to say as with as much as there is in the Star Wars canon. Like I almost put that at the top of like the most badass, confident fight I've ever seen from anybody, because of the way he came into it, the way he approached it. And then it ended shitty, so I kind of cut off at the end because he left her alive, and I don't like that part. But leading up into that, like the amount of power he showed, it's just like the all-encompassing, omnipresent, whatever you want to say, powerful ruler of the whole galaxy, and he showed it in that scene.
I mean, that whole scene, he completely dunked on Riva from
Yes.
basically telling her, like, "Oh, you thought this plan had anybody fooled?" He's like, "I knew this shit all along." Like,
Mm-hmm.
and now on top of that, yeah, I'm basically gonna fight you with both hands tied behind my back and like insult you the whole time to show you how in over your head you are.
He's like, this is nothing.
Yeah. This is a slow Tuesday for me.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to go with all of the third episode because the Vader and Obi-Wan rematch, first off, that's what we've waited for so long.
Yeah.
And I thought the symbolism in that episode of the fire when he was like burning Obi-Wan to obviously what happened to him on Mustafar was pretty interesting to me and a cool visual. Also, episode 3, we got Tala, who was one of my favorite characters, who I thought made the episode. And then another thing, too, is just seeing how shocked Obi-Wan was that Anakin was still alive. And this is the first time we really saw him up against another Jedi, realizing that he doesn't have his fastball anymore. You know, like, he's not the Jedi he used to be, but he has to protect Leia, which gave us some emotional stakes, which I liked. And I just felt like no matter how much, this is kind of interesting, but no matter how much of him we get, we can never get enough Darth Vader. But I think he was used very tactfully in this because, like, the less he's seen, the more ominous he is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
And so
glad. I always have a tough time breaking down episodes like after I get done watching a series. So I'm glad you picked this one out specifically because, yes, to your point, this was such a huge pivotal moment because we kind of had some inklings before, like he hadn't pulled his lightsaber out yet. Obi-Wan, speaking of him, is he really the same Jedi? And this was the point to where we really saw he's a broken man. He's kind of fucked up in the head right now. He's not who he used to be. But it was a big turning point for the whole series.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you finished with your point? Because I have a
Yeah.
question.
Go for it.
And this goes into the retconning thing. Do we know that? I mean, I was kind of shocked with the idea that Obi-Wan did not know Vader is Anakin, because in Revenge, Obi-Wan does see him kill the younglings as Darth. He sees Palpatine and Vader talking. So I don't know that. I mean, that's not a retcon to even get that angry about if you do feel that way. I just personally always thought he knew both him and Yoda know Palpatine and I assume Vader are out there doing their shit.
Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, that's one of them. I mean, there's a few we can bring on, but again, I don't
he
think
may just be so out of the loop he doesn't know like that Vader is still at the right hand of Palpatine because obviously he leaves him on. I don't. As hard as it was for him, I don't think he would have consciously left Vader alive or Anakin alive on Mustafar intentionally.
But he did let him burn. I was like, if the merciful thing would be to chop his head off, but
correct. But it's easier, I guess, for him to just walk away like, oh, he's burning on his own, than like I walk up to him and decapitate him.
It was just one of the points. Yeah, there's a couple retcon points that I would ask. And again, I will say this, and Horns, you and I have talked about this off pod. We are not here, and especially me bringing it up, I'm not here to shit on the series because there has been some retcon. I know it's easy to do on the internet. You have to think about this. A New Hope, made in 1977. At the time, you didn't even know there was going to be a second one, right? Like that was the story. And here we are 30 years later. Hundreds of stories, books, show, whatever you want to make about it. It is literally impossible to make sure everything's tightly fit in a box.
Yeah.
So it's going to happen. You're going to be a fan of this type of genre. You have to accept there are going to be blips. That doesn't mean we can't ask questions or say, hey, you didn't need to do that because if this happens in this movie. But if you're going to take your enjoyment purely out of saying it's either perfectly placed or I hate it, then what are we doing here? You're watching the wrong show.
Mm-hmm. You're just not going to enjoy anything, really, if that's... Yeah. If, like, it doesn't meet my specific expectations, like, then why have people create things for you if it's just... You want to see exactly one hyper-specific thing.
Yep.
All right, last category. We call it impact, but it's basically anything that you want to talk about with this show that does not fit into the previous three categories. I have two questions I just want to ask you guys because I feel like I've let my sentiment be known about this series. I was very pleased with it. My first question is, because Ewan McGregor has been very vocal, so is Hayden Christensen. They would love to do another season of this. So the question is, do we want that / what could they even do? Because I don't think Vader can run into Obi-Wan again before A New Hope. And Cycly kind of mentioned that earlier. So do we have any ideas on what this could be? And maybe it can't include both of them. Like maybe it's not an Obi-Wan series. Hayden Christensen's talking about loving to do a Vader series, which obviously would murder. Like people would be freaked out about that. Nate, do you have any ideas, or are they just excited about these roles? And it's like, I mean, that's great, but there's really no way that works in Star Wars canon.
Yeah, I've got some ideas on this, and especially since there were some early rumors that we were going to get Darth Maul in this. I think it's an easy transition for like a season 2 Obi-Wan. We go back to Tatooine, where we kind of thought this one was going to go. And then maybe we get a little crossover and pardon my
Darth Maul's pod racing. Yeah, I see it.
Darth Maul's pod racing against Luke. But I think it's in Rebels. Rebels or Clone Wars, sorry, they blur together, but I think Rebels. There's actually a Kenobi Darth Maul fight. So maybe we could get that recreated, or just another instance where he is on Tatooine that fits in with him basically at the head of the Crimson Dawn at the time.
Yeah, that picks up from Solo.
Yeah. So, man, I think that lines up nicely. And like I said, there were some early rumors in like pre-production and things about Darth Maul being involved in Kenobi. And I was so excited because I thought we were going to get a live action fight scene between them again. So I could definitely see it going that direction.
Interesting. Cycly, how about you? There was talk, people said this, I feel like it's setting up a Reva spinoff series. Sadly, with the internet reaction, I don't think there's an appetite for that, or I think Lucasfilm might be a little bit hesitant. I don't even know if I'd want them to do that to Moses Ingram, the poor girl.
Yeah, I don't know if she would want that.
Right. Be like, dude, fuck this. You guys are insane.
I could see one. I've always, you guys have heard me talk about this, want to see the intricacies of the Empire. Like, I would love a Vader focus, or even Palpatine focus, not necessarily Palpatine focus, but like, we never really see how the Empire fucking functions.
Like, what's Vader's day to day?
Yeah, what is his schedule? like, I know that sounds really, but maybe a Vader story could give us that. Like, if you're going to do a sequel, I just talked about retconning, how don't watch this kind of stuff if you're not going to enjoy it. There is a level to that retcon, guys. Again, I'm saying these minor little things But if we're talking about like major changes, that's where you lose me. So I personally would be very against the second season where there is another breakdown of Kenobi and Vader. I mean, we're 9 years away from A New Hope, theoretically, right?
Yeah.
Like unless we retcon shit, 9 years away.
Mhm.
One, Obi-Wan ages terribly in 9 years.
Well, yeah, that's one of the issues of
he
the
aged
old.
beautifully for 10 years. 10 years between this movie and Revenge of the Sith, and then 9 years till A New Hope, and I don't know what happened. So maybe that's what they'll get into.
Yeah, maybe stop smoking death sticks.
That's what it has to be. So I would say if they're going to do another Kenobi series, have Vader in it, but kind of doing his own thing. See the little in day to day of what he does. Because I know that sounds silly to say, but truly that's what I would want to see. And then I think we could get. I mean, we know Yoda is all the way in Dagobah, right? What if there is a scenario where Obi-Wan or Yoda is signaling to Obi-Wan for help, or something else is going on, but maybe it's a trap, maybe something else is happening here, that they try to unify Yoda and Obi-Wan again? Because what is Yoda up to on that planet? We know he's kind of going crazy, but is he like Obi-Wan? Has he given up completely, or is he up to something? Supposedly one of the greatest Jedi ever. Is he really just sitting there?
That's, man, as you say that, it's kind of funny how little I've thought about that. And as we've gotten new installments like sprinkled in between movies and going in areas like I was saying earlier that we haven't really visited much, like Yoda is one of those ones that we have not revisited since Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah. And so, what if we got the ending of Obi-Wan finally connecting with Qui-Gon? What if there's a way to communicate between him and Yoda? And again, what if it's a trap? What if they're trying to? Palpatine says, "Hey, we know Yoda is out there. Let's find something of that nature." So I wouldn't mind a season 2 if it's of that nature, but no Vader together with Obi-Wan.
It's funny because I haven't, like I said, I hadn't really thought about Yoda much, but that would be a pretty easy transition and could lay some pretty easy groundwork for Obi-Wan to communicate with Yoda, maybe lay some groundwork for Luke later on down the line. Man, I could definitely see that happening. That's a pretty good theory.
Or Yoda just has like a weed shop on Dagobah. And it's just
Obi-Wan shows up. He's like, "What's up, man?"
Yoda's
like a Rastafarian now.
He's like, "Am I high? Or are you there? Like, which one is it?"
Yeah.
This happens to me like every day.
Are you a Force ghost or is that really you?
Yoda has like Seth Rogen's laugh.
I was gonna try and imitate it, but I can't.
It's gross.
That's funny.
All right. Anything else? Final thoughts? Impact on the show?
Really? No, not too much. But it's just, like I said, fun being able to like have such a huge canon and now being able to sprinkle in little tidbits here and there and fill in some areas. And like I was saying a second ago, like you can't get too caught up in the continuity or like retconning and things like that at this point. And one of the early ones for this episode, for this series, was that, I haven't felt this presence in a long time. Oh, you haven't seen him? No,
it's been 9 years.
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay. That line still plays well. So that's the one thing I know we're going to get into, like going forward from these things, is like the keyboard warriors online saying, "Oh, that's not it," and like there's going to be 3, 4, 5 episodes, and by the end of the next year or whatever, and 9, 10, 12 movies. So you can't keep up. I'm sorry.
It's impossible.
You just can't. So that's the fine line they're going to have to walk. But I'm becoming to the point where I'm accepting it. I just want to be along for the journey.
Yeah, man. We're lucky to have gotten this, I feel like. Some people enjoy not enjoying things.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
The only one, I told Jeff this, the only one that bothered me a little bit more than the others was the whole, like, to me now it's obvious that like Valley and Leia are obviously sympathetic to the rebellion and not pro Empire, but yet Leia is allowed to serve in the Galactic Senate. That to me is like, I don't know how we can get there when now it's obvious. But like I said, I didn't let that bother me in terms of the enjoyment of the show. I even though I thought about it, I'm like, I'm gonna still continue to watch.
Yeah.
Maybe they let it. The Empire just lets that build up, and then they're like, yeah, we're just gonna fucking blow up your home planet. It's like, well, that feels
Yeah.
like
Watch this.
an overreaction.
But it goes to my point. I've always defended the empire. Maybe they are truly free of freedom of speech. They're like, hey, we don't like you, but go ahead and serve in our government.
Yeah, but if you fuck up, your planet goes boom.
Yeah,
Deal?
which is fair.
Handshake agreement. All right, the second part of our show is our protein shake, where we go around talking about what's in our cup, aka what have we watched lately. Gonna keep it light today, guys. Only have one thing I need to talk about. How about each of you?
Yeah, I'll do one.
I'll do one.
I'll do. Yeah, I've got a couple too.
All right, Nate, why don't you go first then? What have you seen since we last spoke to you?
As I say that, hold on, let me pull my notes up here. Yeah, one of the things that I revisited recently, I think maybe one of Denzel Washington's more underrated movies, Inside Man, with him.
I like Inside Man.
Clive Owen.
Is that the gay porno one? No? Oh, I was going to say I really like that one.
I can see where you get
hanging
confused.
fruit.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm always going to take low-hanging fruit, okay?
I see what you did there. But yeah, I saw this was on HBO Max the other night, turned it on, and yeah, it's a great one. I love this one. Classic Denzel. He plays a negotiator for hostage situations. He gets called to the scene for a bank robbery, and he does a great job, like he always does in those roles. And there's a few twists and turns in there. Clive Owen playing the main bank robber in this does a great job playing kind of that sinister, calm and cool, collected guy. And then yeah, it's just overall great movie. Like I said, pretty underrated though. You don't hear many people talk about it. There's other Denzel movies that get put above that one.
Two things I want to say about Inside Man. Number one, I loved the framing device of like, as the movie's going on, they're intercutting between interviews with people who were in the bank when the heist began, and you're trying to figure out which of these people are a part of the job or which were actually bystanders.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, it's a good plot device to kind of almost make the audience overthink.
Definitely.
It makes it intertwined and
because you're like, I don't trust any of these motherfuckers.
No, you're constantly thinking, and it's one of those ones I turn it on. I don't think the wife had seen it at any point. Like, you have to pay attention. Get off your phone.
Because little details matter. The other thing is, I someone brought this up a while ago, and this would be a cool chess day we'll have to do at some point. But take movies with the original cast, but you have to switch around who the performers are playing. Because this movie would also be really interesting if Denzel was the bank robber and Clive Owen was the negotiator.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, Denzel can do anything, so.
Yeah, that movie. I will say it's been a long time since I've seen that movie, but I just remember thoroughly enjoying it. It was just a ride.
Yeah. Yep, it's a fun one.
It's really good. So that's on HBO Max right now?
Yeah, I think that's where I watched it. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna have to revisit that. Did you have one more?
Yeah, I can go ahead and knock that one out too.
Connect Four.
Which I'm kind of disappointed to talk about this one, and me and Horns were actually texting after I watched this one, but the recent Netflix release with Chris Hemsworth and Miles Teller, Spiderhead.
I was really pumped for this. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I mean, for everyone out there, I think it's worth a watch. And I have to give the movie credit because I think it's a unique, original idea. There's nothing really out there that's kind of played off of what they play off of. And now off the top of my head, I'm trying to remember what the trailer kind of entails because I don't want to give any spoilers away.
It was basically like Chris Hemsworth has like a facility where they test like various mental health medications on people is what it seemed like. There we go.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, I didn't want to give any spoilers. I couldn't remember what the trailer said.
So I don't know if Spiderhead was like the island they do this or maybe the name of the drug that they're
It's like the facility. It's like a facility. And it's based on like a short story from someone, I believe. Okay. But I just didn't get enough resolve in it. The acting was decent. Chris Hemsworth, I can never tell if like his American accent is good or bad. It just sounds weird to my ear because I know what his voice is, and I don't know why it is. But like him doing an American accent, like I said, I can't tell if it's good or bad. It just sounds weird to me. But I thought his character was great. Miles Teller did great. I know Banner's not a huge fan of his, but I like the overall premise of it. It just didn't. There wasn't a huge payoff for me, and there was kind of one twist, but you kind of saw that coming. It wasn't that surprising. But overall, it's worth a watch. But and maybe it's just myself because I had huge expectations for this, but it didn't live up to my expectations. And I think on IMDb right now it's getting like a 5.5. So,
Oof. Did anyone draft this in our rest of movies of 2022? Draft?
No, I almost did though.
Damn it! Because I
remember you talking about the movie, saying you were about to draft it.
Yeah.
I need someone else to draft a stinker after I drafted Lightyear.
Yeah,
But you did get Top Gun, so I'm just gonna say those are canceling each other out.
I guess.
Yeah. So those are the two things I've watched recently. So we'll throw it back over to you guys.
I think I'll still give Spiderhead a poke.
It's worth a watch, like I said.
But yeah. All right, Cycling, what have you seen?
Yeah, I'll just do one big one, and that's finished. Well, finished, quote unquote, because we're getting part 2 in like a week.
Oh,
but
boy.
Stranger Things.
We are 5 episodes in.
Okay, so I won't, but you know enough to where at least I can say some things that it's not gonna.
Yep.
So what I'll say is, I think I commented last time I was on. I think I was on like halfway through episode 2 of season 4, and now my wife and I have finished season 4, part 1, and so what I talked about in that episode was saying that I didn't really see where they were going, but not necessarily as a bad thing. That's the point of watching these kind of shows. You're like, okay, it's a little different now. The kids are grown up a little bit. And Nate, I don't know if you're feeling this way, but I mean, there's moments where this is like straight horror, right? Like this 100%. Is darker.
Through the first 2 episodes, I almost say it is straight horror.
Yeah. Yes.
It levels off a little bit, but it crossed into the horror genre for sure.
And there was moments where I almost didn't feel like Stranger Things. And again, not in a bad way, not as an insult, just like we had been away from the show for 3 years, right? Like between COVID delays and all the other things, and the kids have grown up now. So it just felt, I personally did not do a full rewatch. Usually with these shows, I do a full rewatch right before. I've rewatched Stranger Things, but not right before it. And so there was a little bit of like, man, are we a little out of it? Is this a different show now? They definitely goes back around and kind of goes back to that Stranger Things element, especially with what happens with Eleven's storyline. Don't know where you're at, so won't say anything more than that. But the main character, the main, I guess, bad guy, Vecna, we don't have a monster, at least right now in this one. It's a character that they name based on, again, like all Stranger Things information they have from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
So very dark season. Happy where it's going now that I know where it's going. Excited for the next couple episodes. Because again, and these episodes are like an hour and a half. I think we referenced these are like mini movies.
Almost like a full.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I didn't mind because I have felt like, I don't know if you agree with this, but I don't feel like there's been a lot of lull. Like I haven't been like, oh my gosh, This episode does not need to be this long.
No, which is kind of crazy because going into it, is kind of dreading it. I was like, oh, dang it, they're
it's
like
gonna be a chore.
Hour 15, hour 30, but no, they move along. The pacing is nice. And I know, speaking to a co-worker the past couple of weeks who's finished and watched it, watched the first 2 episodes, and then it took us a while to get through. And he's like, things wrap up, things are explained, and it really ties up nicely for the first half of the season. And I'm already seeing that through episodes 3, 4, and 5.
I don't know if there's an episode you've gotten to yet. I don't remember which at the end of one of them, but there's a really just dramatic moment. There's a song that's playing, and this song, it's an 80s song, of course, has been number 1 on Spotify since.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because the scene, if we break down the season when this is done, that's maybe one of the best scenes in all of Stranger Things. And
maybe 6.
Maybe.
I might have to watch it after this pod.
Yeah, it's so good. But can I say really quickly that one of my favorite things about Stranger Things is they have an amazing way of introducing new characters who just win you over. Right, like the first first season was like Max and like Billy and these characters you think are bad, and they turn, they end up winning you over. And then we get it again, and now his name is escaping me, but basically the leader of the Hellfire Club. No, the leader of the Hellfire Club.
Okay.
Who's on the run.
I was
They're
going to say
thinking of
Steve, but that's wrong.
Steve is another guy who's been redeemed.
Yeah.
But basically that, he's on the run because the cops think he's committing these murders.
Yeah.
But like, again, he's just a brand new character that we already feel like we have a rapport with as the audience. I mean, and Robin was the character last season who I just feel like they just are so good at bringing people in and just making it feel natural. I think that's one of the few reasons the show is so good and so iconic. But I have missed Stranger Things. I'm glad it's back, and I look forward to part 2.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Part 2 comes in July.
Yeah, like next
July
week. So
1st, I think. Yeah, something
yeah,
like
Nate,
that.
when you finish it, let us know. We can debrief.
Sounds good.
Only thing I'll talk about, I'm actually going to put some of the other things I've seen in a squad blog, so check out that on our website, pro4squad.com. But I watched on Netflix, the Netflix original movie, The Adam Project, which came out earlier this year. This is with Ryan Reynolds, Jennifer Garner, Mark Ruffalo, Zoe Saldana. Might have seen this trailer. I am a Ryan Reynolds apologist. I know a lot of people are a little tired of his shtick. Dude, he just fucking cracks me up. And there is a child actor in this movie who, and this is revealed in the trailers, but plays a younger version of Ryan Reynolds' character. There's a time travel element, which I think kind of feeds into I'm getting a little sick of time travel movies. But the kid in this movie does an incredible job of playing like the same type of wit and sarcastic asshole that Ryan Reynolds just inherently is, but as a 10 or 11-year-old version of it. And if you're a fan of the movie 13 Going on 30, this reunites Mark Ruffalo and Jennifer Garner.
Boom. We live in a simulation.
Yeah. A lot of people love that. I really like this movie. I know some people had issues with it. I thought the visuals were awesome. There's some cool like technology ideas in it that like I haven't really seen before in a sci-fi movie that are kind of riffs on things we've seen before. And it's pretty short. It's like an hour, 40 minutes. And there's a lot of like, not a lot of, but it tries for a few emotional beats throughout the film. And I think they all connected with me. So I would recommend The Adam Project. I liked it a lot.
100%. I may have talked about this one on an episode a while back, but yeah, I
So
really
you had
enjoyed
some-
this.
cool.
And going into it, yeah, it was kind of up in the air. Like, okay, it's got Ryan Reynolds in it. In and of himself, I love Ryan Reynolds. Like you said, his shtick can get it to be a little much. So I didn't know how this movie was going to go over. But it was great. And like you said, I think there were probably 4 or 5 times they hit on some emotional heartstrings, and I think they hit on them pretty good. They really hit home for what it's worth. But yeah, overall, I thought it was really good.
Also, everyone on Earth is a Marvel character because Jennifer Garner was Elektra twice. Ruffalo's obviously the Hulk. Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool, and Zoe Saldana is Gamora. So,
yeah.
That's the world we live in. All right, last part of our show. Brian's not here to make the bird noise. It is our Do You Even Lift Bruh segment, our question and answer piece, where we ask a question that we end the show with. This week, we are continuing our countdown of each of the Bros' top 100 movies of all time list. You can find this list at the top of our website, bro4squad.com, where we are counting down again from starting at 100 all the way down to 0 whenever we get there of our favorite movies of all time. And Cycle, I'll let you take this one. For those at home who might be new to the show or maybe don't exactly know how this segment works, how would you describe these lists? Because these are not your AFI top 100 or like the 100 greatest pieces of cinema of all time. There's sort of a unique Bro4 Squad flair to them.
Yeah, this is completely unique to you and has nothing to do with any credentials anyone would put out there as one of the greatest films. It's movies that have impacted you in personal ways, in fun ways, in sad ways, that have just sat with you. It's your personal top 100, and you don't owe an explanation to anyone. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's a really, really fun activity. Do it with your friends, your siblings. It's just fun to see how everyone develops this, because you realize how hard it is. You think it's easy, and 2, how unique your list is compared to other people's. You'll hear some things. You can have The Godfather on there, and you can have Dumb and Dumber on there, and you can have a Disney Channel original movie like Brink on there, right? Like it's gonna be everything and anything that means something to you.
That was a great way of putting it.
Yeah, just to jump in for a second, because this literally just happened this week. I was talking to a buddy on a Teams call at work, and we'll chat about work stuff, and then we'll kind of divert to other things. And this got brought up as like, oh, friends, some buddies are doing a top 100. We spent like 15 minutes just talking about that and trying to like break down his top 5. I'm like, oh shit, no, this would have to go up there. It is a fun exercise, I will say that.
Yeah, it's hard. And like Cycly's saying, the movies in your head that you're like, oh, that's definitely a top 10 movie of mine. You probably think that about 20 movies.
Yeah.
So
where does it shake out?
Right, half of those aren't actually in there. Yeah. All right, where we pick up, we're each going to count down one in our ongoing list tonight. We are on actually all of our number 67 films of all time. So, Nate, we will go to you first. Your number 68, last time we spoke to you, was The Prestige, the Christopher Nolan classic. So what is your number 67 movie of all time coming in just ahead of that film?
67. So didn't take too long to get to the installment after Infinity War. 67 is Endgame for me.
Nice.
I mean, I probably won't speak on this much because I don't think I need to do too much to justify where this is falling in. I'm sure some other bros will have it higher. But I mean, it's just, there was so much building up before this movie, and it was the culmination of however many films it was before, and I think it really lived up to that. And it's tough because, I mean, I think in some circles, some people may put Infinity War above Endgame, but just where it ended, the major death we saw in it, the sacrifice they made with Robert Downey Jr.'s character and his reluctance at the beginning. I think the arc and the flow of the movie, I mean, it's just perfect how it went through. And I don't know. I'm just babbling on at this
point.
Ending,
like, honestly, that scene, yeah, even if you're not a fan of like the franchise, like,
yeah,
I mean, ending.
And then I don't know how it could be more poetic to play out this way, but this was the next movie to come out after Stan Lee's death, and it was his last cameo in there. So,
also the first person through the portals is Chadwick Boseman.
Yes,
T'Challa.
I mean, so. I can't. We could keep going on and on about it. I know it'll be mentioned on other bros. I'm sure coming up. So, Endgame at 67, which is, let's see, 4 above Infinity War. So they came in pretty close to each other. 5 above Infinity War. So, yeah, it was just the perfect ending to something we were expecting for a long time.
I'll just say I like that movie.
Oh, do you?
Was it like number 346 in your list?
Yeah, 346.
Give or take. All right, Cycle, your number 68 film of all time was the 2002 horror cult classic that became iconic, The Ring. What comes in just ahead of that at 67?
It's I referenced this a few. Go ahead, sorry, Nate.
Oh, I was just saying, wow, The Ring throwback. Haven't heard that in a long time.
It holds its creepiness. I'll say that. I have Interstellar. And I referenced this a few movies ago because I had brought up Inception. And Interstellar, if you had asked me maybe 10 years ago, right, like before this, like, oh, Inception was this amazing movie, and then Interstellar came out, and I think it just didn't have the, like, hold on people initially. Interstellar has grown with me on every rewatch. And I think there's in almost a negative way, Inception has dropped on me on every rewatch. And again, not as an insult. Oh, wow. It's still in my top 100, but
I think you mentioned that on a previous pod, how Inception has kind of dropped off.
Yeah, and again, and that it sounds like I'm hating on it. Absolutely not.
No, that's
love
a diss.
The
movie. He hates it.
Fuck Christopher Nolan, but I have other Christopher Nolan movies. But Interstellar, I think the score is just phenomenal. There's something like deeply like epic and I don't know. It's just like when you hear that score, it just feels like there's so much buildup coming. The movie has an emotional tone to me between like family and that like lostness of that, like what they go through and the sense of loss with like friends and family and all of that. They're trying to save the world and the price you have to pay to sacrifice. And it kind of reminded me in a way of like, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I don't know why these two movies have really hit a core with me emotionally, because I don't know. I just always imagine like that kind of loss of the what if you could have had, what happiness you could have had if not for the circumstances of your life or of your surroundings. And I think Interstellar, again, if you go back and rewatch it, it hits that emotional element outside of its action, outside of its sci-fi, outside of its acting. The script of it, the actual story, it's just, I don't know. There's something pulling my heartstrings. And I'm not going to get into the whole like how it ends and the futuristic exploration and how it actually happens, because that's Christopher Nolan's mind. We can't break that down. We can talk about Tenet and whatever. We'd be here all day trying to break that kind of stuff down. But the movie as a whole,
understand Tenet.
Yeah, we could get Christopher Nolan on here, and he'd be like, "I don't either, dude. I just put something on and hoped it would be cool,
right?"
But yeah, Interstellar, emotional movie to me because of what it means to family and friends, and dealing with something else happening outside of it. So, rewatch it. Maybe it will grow on you too.
I just don't understand it enough. That's why.
And I'm kind of in the same boat. I need to go back and rewatch it since Cycly brought it up and it's so high on his list. Because the ending kind of lost me. I was like trying to piece things together. And I was just like, I don't know where I'm at.
The scene where they're kind of like explaining everything, I'm like, damn it, I really want to understand this, but
because other than me understanding how it works, I think I like the movie. I like you said, the visuals and all that. It worked for me. I just
To me, I'd say I enjoy it outside of that element because of everything else going around. I think black holes are cool. I think space travel's cool, whatever. To me, there's stuff about science and the world that I'll never understand, but I enjoy the beauty of what comes with it. Yeah. And the way I interpret that scene is I, as myself, do not get it. And maybe he doesn't even get it. But there are things outside in this world, whether it's a religious aspect or a scientific aspect, of other things happening that I'm not capable of. So instead of trying to understand it or like boil down my enjoyment from that, I'm going to just take it for what it is and accept it. And that's kind of how I felt about it.
And if anything, this movie gave me one of my favorite memes I've seen in the past couple of years. This little maneuver is going to cost us 51 years. Just like the dad on a road trip saying, "Oh, we need to pull over to the gas station. This maneuver is going to cost us 51 years."
I do love that black hole planet scene. That whole like where it takes that many years off their lives. Yeah.
Dude.
I think that's I think you guys should go revisit it and see how you feel about it.
Definitely has Matt Damon play quite the shithead.
A little bit.
Matt Damon wants to be an astronaut. That and The Martian came out like right around the same time.
Yeah. That is true.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was kind of a weird time for him. All right, my number 67 movie of all time is one of the great moments in the Broskers, but Mission Impossible Fallout.
Boy.
Yes. Came out in 2018. The best Mission Impossible movie. Got me reinvigorated with the franchise.
Wow.
I saw it twice in theaters. So much fucking fun, and one of probably a top 20 action scene of all time when Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill beat the shit out of a bunch of guys in a public restroom. And the use of mirrors in that scene, number one, to avoid seeing the cameraman, but just like they basically end up breaking every mirror in the bathroom at some point by smashing a dude's head into it. And this is one where I realized that these are more than just dumb action movies. These are actually really, really well made, and the plot here is pretty fucking cool. And actually ties back in quite a bit to the very original Mission Impossible, with the character of Knox being reintroduced.
This is one, and I haven't been huge on the Mission Impossible franchise. I'm going to make it a mission to go and like start from the beginning and watch these. Because I did that
impossible. You can't.
Well, I did it with the Marvel movies.
No, you said I'm going to make it a mission, so I was playing,
he thinks it's funny to make a joke of the title.
It's fine.
Yeah. Don't joke with me like that.
Gay porno, guys.
Gay porno. Inside man. I'm glad because I know, Horns, you're a big fan of these. I'm going to go back and rewatch all these.
They're all on Paramount Plus.
Boom.
To that.
I'm looking at this one on IMDb, and like I don't know why like I get hung up on like these sequels and like movies that put out a ton of movies, like, well, other than like Marvel and Star Wars, but it's got a 7.7 on IMDb. It's a quality movie.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Nice.
Very good. All right. Any last thoughts for episode 187 and the listeners out there? Cycling, we'll start with you.
Hey, if you're in the left lane of a highway, you better be going fast or passing other cars because you are in the fast lane. So get out of there if other people are riding on your ass or passing you on the right because you're making a dangerous situation for everyone else. The left lane is for passing or going fast.
Heard it here first. Actually, hopefully you've heard it somewhere else before.
Hopefully when you're 16 and getting your driver's license.
Yeah, for real.
Clearly they don't teach it anymore.
Nate Thurman, what's your words of wisdom?
I actually don't know if I know anyone personally who does this, but if you put the milk in your bowl before your cereal, you are a psychopath. So hopefully no one out there does that. And it would be a big revelation if one of you two said you did. So
Definitely not.
I don't.
Okay.
If you
I
do
do
that,
what-
stop.
What is that? What a girl does in Get Out, where she has the cereal in the bowl
Oh yeah.
and the milk in the glass.
Well, she just eats that dry and then drinks the milk
That's
Yeah.
yeah.
out of a straw.
And of everything she does in that movie, that's the most fucked up.
yeah, that's. I can get.
Yeah,
I can
that's-
accept the racism. I cannot accept the cereal.
That's I can accept the racism, but yeah, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah,
well,
I have standards.
stand for something or you'll fall for anything. I'll just say, please make smart decisions when you get your hair cut. Not a permanent decision what you do in the barber's chair, but it will last you several weeks. And just don't get crazy with the hair dye and the coloring and all that. Just use your brain.
Mind your P's and Q's.
Right. All right, for the American hero, Nate Thurmond, and our legal counsel, Ronnie Cycli, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening to us. Please follow us on Twitter, @Bro Force Squad. We're on Instagram as well. If you type in Bro Force Squad, I believe is it 3 words or 1 word that you type to find us?
If you type it in either way, you'll find us.
Perfect. We're also on Letterboxd, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words, and everything that we post, our squad blog and our running top 100 movies of all time list, can be found on our website, broforcesquad.com. Till next time, we will see you at the movies.